One mistaken assumption, one hidden identity. What happens when a luxury car dealership manager misjudges a casually dressed man who actually runs the place? The Los Angeles sun hung high in the sky, casting long golden streaks over Empire Motors, one of the most prestigious luxury car dealerships in the city. The glass-paneled showroom reflected the light, making the polished exteriors of high-end cars gleam like works of art. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of leather, fresh wax, and quiet confidence. Men in tailored suits, women in designer dresses, and customers exuding wealth and exclusivity moved effortlessly through the showroom. Sales associates, trained to cater to this clientele, glided between them with polished smiles and well-rehearsed pitches. And then Adam Reynolds stepped inside. He was not dressed for luxury. A gray hoodie, worn jeans, and a pair of sneakers, an outfit that stood out not because it was extravagant, but because it wasn't. He parked his unmarked SUV at the far end of the lot, away from the luxury vehicles lined in neat rows. This wasn't a random visit. Adam had recently acquired Empire Motors, but no one in the dealership knew his face. He wanted to see it through the eyes of a customer, not an owner, to test the culture, to see the truth beneath the polish. As he stepped further inside, the glass doors gliding shut behind him, he felt it immediately. A momentary pause in conversation, a subtle glance, a quick flicker of judgment before everything resumed as normal. Adam had seen this before, and today he was here to expose it. Adam Reynolds took a slow, measured step into Empire Motors, his eyes scanning the showroom with quiet curiosity. The bright overhead lights reflected off the sleek, high-performance vehicles, each positioned strategically to emphasize its elegance. The scent of leather and fresh wax filled the air, blending seamlessly with the quiet hum of controlled conversations. The moment he crossed the threshold, he felt it, the subtle shift in energy. Sales associates, once engaged in effortless conversations, momentarily paused, their gazes flickering toward him. It was only a fraction of a second, quick enough to be dismissed, but heavy enough to be felt. Adam had seen this before, the silent assessment, the unspoken judgment based on nothing more than clothing and presence. He tucked his hands into his pockets and walked further in, stopping near a sleek black coupe, admiring the sharp angles and aggressive design. That was when she appeared, Callista Davis. She moved with an air of practiced authority, her heels clicking against the showroom floor, her tailored blazer crisp, and her expression polite yet distant. She was a woman who knew how to assess a customer within seconds, or at least she thought she did. "Can I help you?" Her voice was professional, but the undertone carried detachment, a subtle reservation, a carefully measured boundary between genuine hospitality and surface-level courtesy. Adam turned, meeting her gaze, testing, observing. "Just browsing," he said lightly, gesturing toward the car. "This one's nice." Callista's lips twitched slightly, though her expression remained unreadable. "That's one of our premium models," she said. "Very exclusive." It was an interesting choice of words. "Is that so?" Adam replied, keeping his tone casual. "Yes," she continued, her gaze sweeping over him once more, lingering briefly on his hoodie, worn jeans, and sneakers. "We typically work with clients who come in pre-qualified or with financial portfolios prepared. Would you like me to direct you to one of our more accessible options?" Adam tilted his head slightly, a flicker of amusement passing through his eyes. "More accessible?" Callista offered a practiced smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yes, we have an excellent selection of pre-owned vehicles, reliable, well-priced, and practical." Adam exhaled softly, keeping his expression neutral, but the sting of her assumption was undeniable. "That's considerate of you," he said, his voice even, controlled, "but I was actually looking at this one." Callista's smile tightened, her posture stiffening slightly. "That model starts at 6 figures, she said, her tone carefully measured. "I see." Adam nodded thoughtfully. "And if I wanted to see the owner?" A flicker of genuine surprise crossed Callista's features before she quickly masked it. "The owner?" she repeated. "Yes," Adam said simply, watching her carefully. Callista recovered swiftly, letting out a small, polite laugh, as if trying to brush off an absurd request. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," she said. "The owner doesn't take walk-ins. They're extremely busy managing high-profile clients. Of course, Adam replied, nodding. I understand. Callista relaxed slightly, clearly believing the conversation had reached its conclusion. But then, Adam pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts, then held the device to his ear. Callista's smile faltered. What are you doing? She asked, her tone shifting ever so slightly, laced with unease. Adam held up a hand, signaling for her to wait as the line connected. Yeah, it's me, he said smoothly. I'm at the dealership. There's been a bit of a misunderstanding. Could you let them know I'm here? He ended the call, slipping the phone back into his pocket. The room had gone still. A few employees who had been nearby were now watching more openly, their curiosity shifting into thinly veiled confusion and tension. Callista's fingers tightened around the clipboard she held, her confidence wavering for the first time. Who did you just call? She asked. Adam offered no immediate answer. Instead, he let the silence stretch, his gaze sweeping across the showroom. Then the sound of the front doors opening cut through the tension. A sharply dressed man in a navy suit stepped inside, his polished shoes clicking softly against the tile floor. His expression was serious but warm, and his eyes immediately found Adam. David Carter, the regional director of Empire Motors. Mr. Reynolds, David said, a genuine smile breaking through his professional demeanor. He stepped forward, extending a hand. So good to see you. Callista visibly stiffened. Her clipboard nearly slipped from her hands. Her eyes darted between David and Adam, the puzzle pieces falling into place. But it was too late. Wait, Mr. Reynolds? She echoed, her voice uncertain, almost breathless. David turned toward her, his friendly demeanor cooling slightly. I see you've already met our new owner, he said, his tone even but pointed. Callista's face drained of color. I didn't know, she stammered. Adam turned to her, his expression calm, controlled, but unmistakably firm. You didn't know what? He asked. That I could own a place like this? A suffocating silence hung in the air. Callista's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. She knew there was no good answer. Adam nodded slowly, as if her silence was all the confirmation he needed. Then he turned back to David. Let's gather everyone in the conference room, he said. I think we need to have a discussion about how this dealership operates. David nodded without hesitation. Of course, sir. And as Callista lowered her gaze, her confidence now fully shattered, Adam exhaled softly. This was exactly why he had come today. To see the truth, to expose it, and now it was time to fix it. The conference room of Empire Motors was silent, but the tension was thick, pressing against every corner of the sleek, glass-walled space. Employees sat in stiff-backed chairs, their gazes flickering between each other, trying to gauge what was coming next. At the head of the table, Adam Reynolds stood calm and composed, his hands resting lightly on the polished surface. His presence commanded the room, not through force or intimidation, but through an undeniable authority that made everyone sit up and listen. On the far side of the room, Callista Davis sat rigid, her clipboard clutched against her chest like a shield. Gone was her earlier confidence, her unwavering sense of control. Instead, she looked like a woman waiting for the hammer to drop. Beside her, David Carter, the regional director, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed as he observed the room with a neutral but discerning gaze. Adam let the silence stretch a moment longer before he finally spoke. I want to start by saying this, he began, his voice measured and deliberate. I didn't come here today to make an example out of anyone. The employees exhaled quietly, but no one fully relaxed. I came here, Adam continued, looking directly at Callista now, to see how this dealership operates when no one is watching. Callista's throat bobbed in a hard swallow, but she didn't look away. What I saw was disappointing, Adam admitted, his tone still calm but carrying an unmistakable weight. Not just because of what happened to me personally, but because of what it says about the culture we have here. A heaviness settled over the room, the weight of unspoken truths and realizations pressing on every person seated at the table. Adam leaned forward slightly, his gaze sweeping across the employees. Let me ask you all a question, he said, his voice deceptively soft. How many times has what happened today happened before? Silence. Some employees shifted uncomfortably. Others glanced at their hands, at their notebooks, at anything that wasn't Adam. How many customers, Adam pressed, have walked through those doors and been judged before they even got the chance to speak? The question hung heavy in the air, forcing everyone to confront the answer they already knew. Finally, a younger sales associate, nervous but clearly thinking deeply, hesitated before raising a hand slightly. "Mr. Reynolds," he started carefully, "I think most of us try to treat customers fairly, but sometimes we make assumptions." Adam nodded, acknowledging the honesty. "That's the problem," he said. "Assumptions." He let the words settle, let them sit with its weight. "I walked in today dressed casually, and I was dismissed. I wasn't given the same attention, the same respect, that you would give to someone in a suit or a designer dress. And if that happened to me, the owner of this place, imagine how many people before me walked out of here feeling the same way." Callista lowered her gaze, her face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and realization. Adam sighed, straightening. "Empire Motors was built on exclusivity," he said. "That's fine. That's the brand. But exclusivity should never come at the expense of respect." He let the words sink in before continuing. "Luxury isn't just about the cars we sell. It's about how we make people feel when they walk in." The room was silent. Then finally Callista lifted her head. Her voice was quieter than before, but there was no defensiveness left in it, only acceptance. "I made a mistake," she admitted. Adam met her gaze. "I know," he said simply. "What matters now is what happens next." She nodded. "I want to fix this," she said. Adam exhaled, running a hand over his jaw before looking around at the employees. "Here's what's going to happen," he said, shifting into solutions mode. Everyone sat up straighter, bracing for what was coming next. 1. Effective immediately, every employee will go through customer service and bias training. That includes me, David, and every single person in this dealership. There were murmurs, but no one spoke against it. 2. There will be a new system in place to ensure that every customer is treated with respect. I'll personally be monitoring customer feedback. If I hear of another instance like today, there will be consequences." A few people nodded, some in relief, some in understanding. "And 3, Adam said, his voice steady, if anyone here believes that respect should only be given to people who look a certain way, this may not be the right place for you." Silence again. Then one by one the employees started nodding, even Callista. Finally David spoke up, his voice firm yet approving. "I think we all understand, Mr. Reynolds," he said. Adam studied the room, then gave a slight nod. "Good," he said. "Then let's get to work." As the employees filed out of the room, Callista lingered near the door. She hesitated, then turned to Adam. "Mr. Reynolds," she said, her voice careful but sincere, "thank you for giving me the chance to do better." Adam studied her for a long moment. "You don't have to thank me," he said finally. "Just show me." She nodded, determined, then walked out of the room. David, still standing nearby, let out a small chuckle. "I have to say," he said, grinning slightly, "I don't think anyone will forget this day." Adam smirked. "Good," he said. "That was the point." As he walked back into the showroom, taking in the dealership he had just started to rebuild, not just in name, but in culture, he felt something shift. This wasn't just about owning a business. This was about creating something better, and Adam Reynolds was ready to lead the way. The morning after the conference room meeting, the atmosphere inside Empire Motors felt noticeably different. The usual polished, scripted energy had shifted into something else, something unspoken yet palpable. Employees were more alert, their interactions slightly more deliberate. Conversations, once easygoing and rehearsed, now carried a new edge of self-awareness. Everyone had heard Adam Reynolds' message loud and clear, and now it was time to prove they understood it. At her desk, Callista Davis sat with her hands folded, staring at her computer screen. But she wasn't reading the inventory reports in front of her. She was replaying yesterday's events in her head, over and over. The moment Adam revealed himself as the owner, the realization that she had judged him unfairly, the way her own words had been turned into a lesson she hadn't anticipated learning. For years, she had prided herself on her ability to read people, on knowing, within moments of meeting someone, whether they were worth her time. But she had been wrong, and it wasn't just about Adam Reynolds. It was about every potential customer she had dismissed before him. The thought unsettled her. Taking a slow breath, she glanced at the mandatory training schedule Adam had implemented, now pinned to her screen. The first session, Unconscious Bias in Customer Service, was set for tomorrow. She had never considered herself biased before, but now she wasn't so sure. A knock at her office door pulled her from her thoughts. She looked up to see David Carter, the regional director, leaning against the frame, arms crossed. "Busy?" he asked. "Not really," she admitted. David stepped inside, his expression unreadable. "I won't lie to you, Callista," he said. "Yesterday was tough to watch." She exhaled. "Tougher to experience." "I'm sure," David said. "But look, you have two options here. You can either stay bitter about it, or you can see it as an opportunity." She frowned. "An opportunity for what?" "To change," David said simply. Callista held his gaze for a moment before looking away. "I don't think Adam trusts me anymore," she admitted. David chuckled. "Adam doesn't trust easily," he said, "but he believes in accountability. And right now you have a chance to show him you're serious about making things right." Callista nodded slowly. "I want to do better," she said. "I just don't know where to start." David smiled. "Start with today and take it from there." Later that afternoon, Callista found herself standing behind the front desk when the first real test of her change arrived. The showroom doors slid open, and in walked a middle-aged man in an old leather jacket, jeans, and a pair of work boots covered in dust. A month ago, she wouldn't have given him a second glance. But today, she took a breath, adjusting her blazer, and walked up to him with a genuine smile. "Welcome to Empire Motors," and she greeted. "My name is Callista. How can I help you today?" The man blinked as if surprised by her warm reception. Yeah," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I was just looking around. I don't know if this is really my kind of place." "Every customer is welcome here," Callista said, meaning every word. She saw his shoulders relax slightly, his hesitation easing. "Actually," he said, his confidence growing, "I was looking at the new SUV models. I need something tough, reliable." "Great choice," Callista said. "Let me show you a few options." As she led him across the showroom, she felt David's approving gaze from across the room. It was a small step, but for the first time, she felt like she was moving in the right direction. From his office upstairs, Adam had watched the interaction unfold. He hadn't planned to check in on Callista, not yet. He had intended to give her space to either rise to the occasion or sink under the weight of her mistakes. But seeing her approach that customer differently today, that was progress. He knew change didn't happen overnight. But this was a good start. By the end of the week, the first training sessions had started. Employees who had once scoffed at the idea of bias training now sat attentively, taking notes, engaging in discussions. There was a shift happening, not just in policy, but in mentality. Adam didn't expect perfection. He didn't expect overnight transformation. But what he did expect, what he demanded, was effort. And as he walked through the showroom that afternoon, watching his employees greet customers differently, treat them with a little more patience, a little more curiosity, a little more respect, he knew one thing for certain, for the better, and it was just the beginning. The transformation of Empire Motors had begun. It wasn't instant, it wasn't perfect, but it was happening. A week had passed since Adam Reynolds had revealed himself as the new owner. Since then, the energy in the showroom had shifted. The tension that once lingered in the air had started to ease, replaced with something different, something unspoken, but undeniably present. There was a renewed sense of awareness among the staff. Conversations with customers felt different, no longer tinged with silent judgment or premature assumptions. Employees were making an effort to engage without bias, to listen before categorizing, to treat every person who walked through the doors with the respect they deserved. From the way the younger sales associates took more time with customers who didn't fit the typical profile, to the way Callista Davis carried herself these days, less guarded, more intentional. The real test wasn't just about correcting mistakes, it was about sustaining change. For Callista, every day since the conference room meeting had felt like a quiet challenge, an opportunity to prove, to herself more than anyone else, that she could be better. She had been with Empire Motors for years. She had thought she knew everything there was to know about high-end sales, but now she was learning again, from the ground up. and Adam was watching, not in a way that made her feel scrutinized, but in a way that told her he was waiting to see if she really meant what she said. One afternoon, she was approached by a customer, a young woman in casual gym clothes, a simple ponytail, and sneakers that had seen better days. The woman hesitated as she entered, her eyes scanning the showroom with something between admiration and hesitation. A month ago, Callista would have overlooked her, but today she walked forward with a genuine smile. "Hi, welcome to Empire Motors," she said. "I'm Callista. What brings you in today?" The woman's shoulders relaxed slightly, but she still seemed unsure. "Honestly, I don't know if I'm in the right place," she admitted. "I just wanted to look, but I probably can't afford anything here." Callista didn't brush her off. She didn't redirect her to pre-owned vehicles. Instead, she nodded, offering the kind of warmth she had once reserved only for her high-profile clients. "Then let's just look," she said. "No pressure, no expectations. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them." The woman's expression shifted from uncertainty to gratitude. And in that moment, Callista realized something. Selling luxury cars had never been about just the price tag. It was about the experience. And that experience belonged to everyone who walked through those doors. From the second-floor office, Adam had seen the exchange. He didn't comment on it. But later that evening, as he passed Callista on the showroom floor, he gave a simple nod, and she understood exactly what it meant. 2 weeks after implementing the new training programs, Adam decided it was time for an unannounced test. Dressed in casual jeans, a simple polo shirt, and a baseball cap, he entered the dealership without warning, blending in with potential customers. This time, he wasn't met with hesitation or dismissive glances. He watched as employees, including those who had once been guilty of quick judgments, greeted customers with genuine engagement. He observed Callista assisting an elderly couple, her tone patient and inviting. He saw the younger sales associates making an effort, not just selling cars, but selling trust and experience. When he walked up to the reception desk, the employee didn't hesitate. "Welcome to Empire Motors," she said with a warm smile. "How can I assist you today?" That's when Adam knew. It wasn't just surface-level compliance. The change was real, and it was here to stay. That evening, Adam gathered his leadership team in the same conference room where it had all started. This time, the energy was different. Less tension, more understanding. "I want to thank you all," Adam began, his tone genuine. "I know change isn't easy, but what I've seen over the last few weeks tells me that we're moving in the right direction." A few people nodded in quiet agreement. "This isn't just about selling cars," Adam continued. "It's about redefining what Empire Motors stands for. Luxury isn't just about the product, it's about the experience. And that experience has to be built on respect, integrity, and inclusion." He let the words settle. Then turning toward Callista, he added, "And it starts with leadership." Callista met his gaze. There was no fear in her eyes this time, no defensiveness, only determination. "I understand," she said, and Adam believed her. As the weeks stretched into months, the changes at Empire Motors became permanent. The dealership's reputation shifted. More customers walked in without fear of being judged. More employees embraced the new culture. And for the first time, Empire Motors wasn't just a dealership. It was a symbol of change, a place where luxury and respect coexisted. And as Adam stood in the middle of the showroom, taking in what he had built, what he had changed, he felt something he hadn't expected: pride, not just in himself, but in everyone who had chosen to rise to the occasion. Because at the end of the day, the biggest lesson was never about who could afford a car. It was about who deserved to be treated like they belonged. And at Empire Motors, everyone did. Months had passed since Adam Reynolds had set foot in Empire Motors as an unrecognized customer. Now, as he walked through the pristine showroom, he could feel the difference not just in the way employees carried themselves, but in the atmosphere itself. Gone were the subtle hesitations, the silent judgments. Customers, regardless of their attire, their background, or their perceived status, were greeted with genuine warmth and professionalism. Sales associates no longer made assumptions. They asked questions, they listened, they learned. And more importantly, it had grown. Adam stopped near the entrance, observing as Callista Davis helped a new customer, an unassuming older man in worn clothes. She didn't redirect him to the pre-owned section. She didn't question whether he belonged. Instead, she welcomed him like she would any other client, her posture open, her voice warm. Adam smiled slightly. A few months ago, this moment wouldn't have happened. Now it was just another normal day. As he turned toward his office, David Carter approached, nodding approvingly. "Not bad, huh?" he remarked. Adam exhaled, looking over the showroom one last time before responding. "No," he said, "not bad at all." This wasn't just a dealership anymore. It was a new standard, a legacy, and Adam knew this was only the beginning. Change begins with awareness and grows through action. Just like Adam transformed Empire Motors, we all have the power to reshape our environments at work, in our communities, and within ourselves. Assumptions and biases exist everywhere, but true progress happens when we challenge them, when we choose to see people beyond appearances. Respect, inclusion, and fairness aren't just business strategies, they're the foundation of a better world. The way we treat others defines our legacy. So ask yourself, are you upholding the status quo or are you leading the change? Because real transformation doesn't start someday, it starts now.